So one time, my companion and I were out in our area. It was in the evening, maybe like 7, and we were approached by this guy in an army uniform, and he was like, "Hey, you guys are missionaries, right?" It's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I served a mission too." He's like, "Yeah, I served a mission. Like, it was like up in Santiago or something." We're like, "Oh, cool!" And it's cool meeting people like that aren't members like in your immediate area. He was just visiting or something. Well, we found out what he was doing later. Anyway, he was like, "Yeah. So anyway, I'm looking for someone here. Her name it was like Maria or something." And I was like, "Yeah, I know where she lives." In my mind, I was thinking this, but at the same time, I got this bad feeling, like this bad vibe from this guy. I mean, even though, he'd said he was a returned missionary and everything, it's like, something's not right. And so he pulls out his phone and he has a picture of her on his phone. And he's like, "Yeah, this is her. Like, do you know where she lives?" And I'm just like, "Yep, I know where she lives," in my mind, but I just didn't feel right. So we're like, "Yeah." And I turned to my companion, and he was kind of getting the same feeling. So we're like, "Yeah, she lives over there in that direction somewhere," and just totally wrong direction. And he's like, "Okay, well, thank you." And he goes on. And I turned to my companion and was like, "That guy gave me the creeps. Something is wrong here." And he's like, "Yeah, we should let her know this guy's looking for him." So we tried calling her, but she didn't answer. So we decided to go to where she lived. And as we were walking, there was a colmado at the basement of where she lives, and she lived on like the 4th story or something. And he was in the colmado down there. And so we're like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" And we just kept walking past, and we hid in a parking lot just to see what would happen. And we waited for him to walk past us. And after he was gone, we went up to her apartment, and we found out why she didn't answer. Is because she was on the phone talking to someone. And we told her what had happened, like we had met this guy, and she's like, "Oh no, he found me." And we're just like, "Oh man, what's going on here?" And she said, just like it was her ex-husband. I think he was like abusive or something, and she'd been hiding from him, but he had found her. And so we're freaking out, and we're like, "Well, I guess we know why we didn't, feel inspired to tell him where she lived." But he texted her just a few minutes later after we were there, and he was like, "Those silly missionaries." Like, we're just like, "Oh boy." So we hung out there just to make sure she'd be all right until she had another ex-husband he was a good guy. So he showed up to wait with her. Anyway, we went back home, and we were like, "Man, that was a crazy experience." But it was just one of those moments in my mission where I felt, like we were inspired, and the Lord does look out for his missionaries. And yeah, so that was a really cool experience. And there were other experiences like that during my mission that I just felt like something wasn't right, so we didn't do something. And sometimes I never found out the reason why. But, an experience like that with this guy dressed up in an army uniform kind of just confirmed to me that, the Lord does watch over his missionaries.